Hello friends, welcome back. Today I want to talk to you about something that is on the minds of almost every homeowner in Florida, especially those that are living in areas that are prone to natural disasters. And obviously here in Florida, we are prone to natural disasters. And I want to talk about the economic impact that will have on real estate, insurance, ultimately your bottom line, your wallet. And truthfully, I feel like we just dodged a bullet because the reality is Southwest Florida has been devastated by two hurricanes back to back. Between Helene and Milton, we've got disaster up and down the coast at a magnitude of scale that I don't know that citizens will be able to pay out adequately to cover all of the damage that was incurred.
You see this house behind me? Hurricane Milton did this. 9 feet of storm surge tore through this house, wiping out everything inside. You can see right through at Lemon Bay. There's pretty much nothing left except for the foundation and the roof. There's a sign taped to the front that says it is unsafe to enter. Now, I spoke with the contractor who actually rebuilt this house after Hurricane Ian. He says it was brand new inside. The family hadn't even moved in yet, and now it's a total loss.
Devastating.
Looks like a war went through.
Sad.
Residents who live along Lemon Bay in Grove City are literally picking up the pieces after Hurricane Milton destroyed their homes and lives. The storm washed bedding, refrigerators, medication, and even photo albums on the Phillips property.
We're starting a little pile over along the fence of stuff that might be of value to people that's salvageable.
Their neighbors had already suffered through Hurricane Helene, which dumped 1.5 feet of water into their home.
And then along came Milton, and Milton brought us 3 feet of water in our house. So it's unlivable.
We're going to live in a camper in the front yard.
And thankfully, Milton wasn't as bad as they thought it might be.
The storm was significant, but thankfully this was not the worst case scenario.
But that doesn't mean that the next one won't be. And the fact that I happen to be on the southeast coast doesn't really give me much comfort, because I do know eventually the big one is going to hit Florida and it's going to be devastating. So let's start with the key number. Right now, there's over $1 trillion of real estate value that sits on the Florida coastline alone. And historically, homeowners in Florida typically pay about 1% of their property value in insurance each year. Now, this used to be manageable when severe hurricanes would come once in, let's call it 100 years. But here's the problem. The frequency in which we're getting these massive hurricanes is on the uptick. And hurricanes, as well as other natural disasters, are happening much more frequently and with much more intensity. It's now more like a 1 in 20 year wipeout event. And to be clear, when I'm talking about a 1 in 20 year, I'm talking about total devastation. I'm talking about your house getting wiped off the coastline. Thankfully, we haven't seen much of that yet, but it's coming and everybody knows it. And now here's the issue. When you're looking at the possibility of your home getting wiped out more frequently, the cost of insuring that property, that home, skyrockets. And I've done plenty of videos in the past talking about Citizens Insurance, talking about the insane skyrocketing cost of insurance, and you can find those videos on the channel. I'm not going to link them here. There are plenty of them if you want to see. But I read your comments, and I know that living in Florida has become completely untenable, unaffordable, unrealistic for most people, specifically because of how expensive home insurance, property insurance is. And for the purpose of this video, I'm going to stick with the skyrocketing costs of home insurance, of property insurance. But I think everybody knows that the housing values in Florida, the property values in Florida, as well as around the country, but specifically in Florida, have all skyrocketed. It is not an affordable place to live for most people. And with inflation and the rising cost of everything else, it is really unaffordable. But for the purpose of this video, we're sticking to insurance. And make no mistake, Florida's insurance system is failing. But the question that I ask everyone to think about if they're thinking about buying a home in Florida is, are you at risk? Can you afford to live here? What exactly is the economic impact of the risks inherent within the Florida insurance system? So we're going to dig deep into that right now. Florida has a state-run reinsurance program called the Florida Hurricane Catastrophe Fund. What it does is essentially backstop private insurance companies, encouraging them to operate in the state. And here's how the cycle works. 1, you get a mortgage from a bank. 2, the bank requires you to have insurance in order to protect your home and property. And I'll say it differently. In order for them to ensure that their home and property and asset that they actually own, because until you pay off that mortgage, they actually own the home. But there isn't a snowball shot in hell that a bank is going to allow you or allow themselves to be put at risk with a property and asset that is not insured. And if you buy a home cash, well, then you have other options. But most people don't have that luxury. So an insurance company steps in and provides the coverage that is required as a term of your lending agreement, as per your mortgage. But those insurance companies don't want to hold on to all the risk inherent in that policy. Insurance companies definitely do not want to be on the hook for the entire policy. And so to mitigate their risk, they go to reinsurers to share the burden. And if we lived in a perfect and predictable world, well, then maybe that would be a great system. Unfortunately, that's simply not the case anymore. And maybe that's because of climate change, maybe it's because of El Nino, and maybe it's because there's a weaponized system put out by some sort of bad guy that is weaponizing the weather in order to destroy our country. But I don't really think that's what's happening, but it could be, and who doesn't like a great conspiracy theory? But putting that to the side for a minute, here's the kicker. With the increasing risks, reinsurers and insurers alike are finding that they can't price the risk affordably anymore. What used to be a manageable risk of a once-in-a-century event is now a looming threat every few decades. And honestly, it feels like it's every 5 years. And that risk, that increase in weather, severe weather unpredictability, changes the game completely. But I certainly don't expect you to take my word for it, because I could make up anything. And frankly, I consolidated my notes so I don't mess any of these facts up. But don't believe anything I say, do your own due diligence, and follow the money, because the numbers don't lie. The state's reinsurance fund has a statutory liability maximum of right around $17 billion per hurricane season. And unfortunately, $17 billion is not what it used to be. And each and every hurricane season is going to be different. And each and every hurricane that happens in that season could be more or less severe. But with a hurricane like Milton, which was estimated to cause losses upwards of $100 billion, well, $17 billion is not going to cut the muster. So when we get hit with the cost of a disaster which exceeds the fund's capacity, the state of Florida cannot keep up. And when the state can't fill the gap financially, it effectively leaves the system on the brink of bankruptcy at all times. Which is no bueno if you're thinking about buying a waterfront home here in Florida. But here's the bad news. This insurance nightmare and reinsurance nightmare is not limited specifically to Florida. Because the reality of it is, we live in Hurricane Alley. We know at some point Florida is going to be devastated with a hurricane that creates massive economic damage that cannot be covered by the state. So the question is, will the federal government step in? Because the federal government loves to write checks that its ass can't cash. But that's a different story for a different video. But if Florida needs a bailout due to extreme weather, other states like Texas, Louisiana, and California are almost guaranteed to expect a bailout too, when a wildfire or an earthquake or some other natural disaster happens in that state. But if a federal bailout precedent is set, you can bet your sweet bippy the next time a natural disaster strikes, we will have a national economic problem. And if you watched my previous videos talking about this same subject, I've been saying the same thing for years because we've been at risk for years. We've just gotten lucky so far. But tell that to the people in Southwest Florida. They don't feel too lucky right now. And truthfully, I don't know that Citizens is going to stroke the check to everyone that was affected by these storms. Yet to be determined, I don't know. But I do know that if you're in that area and you write up the damage to your home as being flood damage, your claim will be denied because insurance companies will find the loopholes and will do everything they can to maximize their profit and not pay out in an emergency, which is why it's critical that you never claim flooding or water damage. You label all damage to your house from a hurricane as being hurricane, storm, and wind related damage. And even that pro tip isn't guaranteed that they're going to pay out if they're broke. So I guess the government will cut a check. But it's no bueno. For Florida homeowners, for anybody who's got property that has a mortgage on it in Florida, or anybody else in the country, this is a systemic risk that not too many people are talking about. That doesn't mean it's not real. It just means a lot of people have their heads buried in the sand. So hopefully this wakes some people up. And let's get back into the numbers because the numbers don't lie. Right now in Florida, there's around $454 billion worth of homeowner mortgages which exist right now. A significant loss in home values due to unaffordable insurance could potentially wipe out people's net worth completely. And no, it's obviously not going to impact the billionaires or hundreds of millionaires that live in Florida. The wealthy will be just fine, and nobody's worried about them as it relates to this particular subject. But the people who have most of their wealth tied up in their homes that are mortgaged to the hilt, those folks are in serious jeopardy, and I don't want anybody to be in jeopardy, which is why I'm making this video. But as a boots-on-the-ground operator of a high-performance real estate team here in South Florida, I know that most folks have their wealth tied up in their homes. And if the real estate market starts crashing because no one can afford to live in these risky areas, which will be rezoned soon to where everything is risky in Florida, every place is risky in Florida because that's what the insurers will want it to say. But if that's true, entire communities could be economically devastated. And the devastation that will come from this will be unlike anything we've ever experienced so far. And I've lived here for 40 years. I've never once experienced anything like this yet. But given the times that we live in, there's also a social dilemma that's associated with this. Because if the cost of protecting homes rises dramatically and the government can't offer help or does so selectively, it will create very big disparities amongst different income earners in that geographic region. And if you think that the social climate is tense now, wait until the government or states start playing the haves versus have-nots game as it relates to who gets a check for their claim. And right now, I know lots of folks are very on edge. They're very anxious about whatever's going to happen in the next few weeks about the election. And truthfully, I am too. But if, in addition to that particular anxiety, everyone now is afraid, wondering to themselves, will my home be protected? Yes or no? Will I get help if I need it, even though I've got insurance? If they don't trust the system will fail. Just like the banking system did during the great financial crisis. But there are some folks who have money that are trying to adapt and trying to be proactive. You may have heard of client-resistant homes that are elevated on stilts, built with concrete and saltwater-resistant materials. But these upgrades are expensive, and most folks can't afford them. And to be clear, this is not a Florida-specific problem. California has wildfires, Arizona has intense heat, and the coastal areas in general are all experiencing massive changes. People are paying more for home insurance, energy, and other costs of living in areas where climate change is making life much harder. And if I had a dime for every time I got a phone call from a board member of an HOA or a condo board member, or simply just residents around my neighborhood, everyone's terrified about their roof. Everyone's terrified about the structural changes that the state of Florida has mandated to be up to code. There are lots of folks out there that cannot stroke a check for a new roof. And that's just a minor maintenance thing relative to this hurricane disaster that we're talking about, but it's a real thing. Which is why I've partnered with a roofing company, which is an ad sponsor. I'm going to play their little commercial at the end of this. I'll also link it up above and down below so you can learn more. Because I'm well connected and do business all over the state of Florida, I often meet with condo boards and condo members who are in panic, total anxiety mode, total crisis mode, because they don't have the budget to be able to replace or reinforce their buildings the right way. They can't afford to redo the roof, the structural engineering, or whatever it might be. And they don't have the liquidity. They don't have the cash to fix the problems. So there is a massive potential for all types of defaults and all types of fire sales in the condo market. Every single time I drive up and down the coast, I see 10 buildings, 10 condos that are definitively not up to code and most likely don't have the money to make the repairs they need to be up to code. So the sponsor of this video and the commercial that I'm going to play in this video towards the end is a company that I've used before in the past and has saved my clients. And by clients, I mean people who live in these condos who thought they were going to be assessed out of their condo because they simply don't have the money to pay for the assessment. And that's a tragedy in and of itself. But SPF Roofing offers solutions that many folks might find to be perfect for them and will be shocked to learn not only is the roof or the restructuring or whatever needs to be done much cheaper than they thought it was going to be, it also creates a massive energy savings throughout the building for everyone, which ends up being a win-win for everyone. So if that's something that you are interested in learning more about, then please reach out. I'll get you connected right away, and I will make sure they take great care of you. Get you a free quote, get you a free estimate, and if the solution is right for you, get you the best deal. Now, I don't mean to be Debbie Downer here, and I know I painted what seems like a very grim picture, but the reality is there's opportunity here too. If you think about it, there's chance for innovation in climate resilience, whether that's in building technology, new insurance models, or even community-based solutions. But until those solutions are found, these escalating risks are creating the perfect storm of economic and social challenges we must pay attention to. And hope is not a balance sheet item, which is why my next video will be talking about Citizens property insurance specifically and how solvent they actually are. Because it wasn't that long ago that Governor Ron DeSantis said flat out they are not solvent, which is no bueno given all the things that have just happened. But I'm curious, what do you think? Is the real estate market in places like Florida still a viable solution Is it someplace you would want to live? Would you buy or sell in some areas prone to natural disasters, or are those completely off the table forever? Let me know in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll look forward to seeing you on my next video.
Is your roof showing signs of wear and tear? Are you tired of costly repairs and high energy bills? Introducing the SPF Roofing System, the future of roofing solutions. SPF Roofing, short for spray polyurethane foam, is a revolutionary roofing system that's transforming the way we protect our homes and businesses. Here's why SPF Roofing is the smart choice for you. Energy efficiency. SPF Roofing provides unmatched energy efficiency. The foam insulation keeps your building cool in the summer and warm in the winter, reducing your energy consumption and cutting those utility bills. Seamless protection. Our SPF Roofing system is seamless. No more worries about leaks or weak spots. It's like a protective shield for your roof. Durability. SPF Roofing is built to last. With proper maintenance, it can serve you for decades, making it a cost-effective investment in your property's future. Versatility. SPF Roofing can be applied to various roof types, whether flat or low slope. It's versatile and adapts to your needs. Expert installation. Our experienced roofing professionals ensure a flawless installation, giving you peace of mind knowing your investment is in good hands. Don't wait until your old roof causes more problems. Upgrade to SPF Roofing and experience the future of roofing today. Contact us now for a free consultation. Protect your property, save on energy costs, and enjoy worry-free roofing with the SPF Roofing System.